Grace did not hide what she believed. She said it openly, proudly, without shame. Love without money is like drinking garri without sugar and milk. It is bitter. It means nothing. She had grown up watching her mother cry over a man who gave affection but could not pay rent. She had watched her family struggle while love sat in a house like a useless guest. So Grace made a decision very early in her life. No man would ever enter her heart without first entering with money. That was her rule. That was her religion. She kept to it. When she got into the University of Lagos, she carried that belief like a bag on her back. She was sharp, she was beautiful, her dark skin glowed under the campus sun, and her laughter could stop a room. Boys noticed her everywhere she went. But Grace was not looking for a boy. She was looking for a transaction. She smiled at the ones with cars. She ignored the ones with textbooks and dreams. She had already decided what kind of life she wanted, and she was not going to let something as cheap as feelings get in the way of it. Little did she know that the choice she has chosen will cost her life and happiness. Daniel was not the loudest person on campus. He did not have a big car or expensive shoes. What he had was something rare, a heart that was completely honest. He met Grace during a group assignment in their second year. She was laughing at something one of her friends said, and Daniel could not look away. Not because she was beautiful, though she was, but because something in her energy pulled at him in a way he could not explain. He walked over, introduced himself quietly, and Grace, surprised by his calm confidence, actually listened. They became close slowly. Daniel was the kind of man who showed up. When Grace was sick, he was at her door with food. When she had no data for her assignment, he shared his. When her school fees were almost late, he used the money he had saved from his part-time job at a printing press to help her pay. He was not rich, but everything he had, he gave. And for a while, Grace let herself receive it. She did not love him the way he loved her, but she liked having him around. He was useful, and in her world, useful was enough for now. Grace, with determined heart to meet a wealthy man who can provide her needs and give her garri with sugar and milk, went to a birthday party with her coursemate. She had borrowed a dress she could not afford and wore heels that made her walk like she owned the floor. The moment she stepped inside that hall, she felt it, the difference between her world and this one. Crystal glasses, waiters in white, men in agbada that cost more than a year of her mother's salary. Her eyes moved slowly around the room, calculating, measuring, hunting. That was when she saw Chief Tinubu. He was seated at the far end of the hall, surrounded by younger men who laughed at everything he said. He was not young, his stomach pressed against his expensive kaftan. His fingers were heavy with gold rings, but he had something that made Grace's heart beat faster than Daniel ever had: power. When Chief Tinubu looked across the room and his eyes landed on Grace, he smiled. Not a warm smile, a slow, deliberate smile, like a man who had already decided something. Grace smiled back. She did not know it then, but that smile was the beginning of her destruction. Chief Tinubu wasted no time. Immediately, he ordered the wait to serve Grace a bottle of champagne, and on the serving tray was a short note saying, "You are the most beautiful girl in this party tonight." Within a week of their knowing, Grace had a new phone. Within 2 weeks, she had a new bag. Within a month, he was paying her rent and sending her money every Friday without her even asking. Grace felt like she had finally arrived. She posted pictures in fine restaurants. She changed her wardrobe. She started looking at Daniel differently, at his worn sandals, his small room, his simple food, and something in her began to feel embarrassed by him. He is below my standard and can literally offer me nothing tangible. I think I need a break from him. Grace broke up with Daniel on a Tuesday afternoon, standing outside the faculty building. She did not cry. She did not explain deeply. She simply said, "Daniel, I need more than what you can give me. I'm sorry." Daniel stood very still. He looked at her for a long moment, like a man trying to understand a language he had never heard before. Then he nodded slowly. He did not beg. He did not shout. He just said, "I hope you find what you are looking for, Grace." And he walked away. She watched him go and felt nothing. Or so she told herself. Deep inside,
Something small and quiet broke, but she buried it quickly. The chief's car was waiting outside. Grace enjoyed 6 months of comfort, 6 months of hotels, gifts, and the feeling of being chosen by a powerful man. But slowly, small things began to show. Chief Kinubu had rules she did not understand. He never let her stay the night in his house. He always collected something from her when she visited. Once it was a scarf she left behind, once it was a pair of earrings she forgot. She laughed it off. Rich men were eccentric, she told herself. It meant nothing. But people who knew Chief Tinubu knew the truth. He was not just a man with money and bad habits. In the streets and markets around his hometown, his name was spoken in low voices. They said he had power that did not come from hard work. They said young girls who got too close to him ended up broken, not just broken-hearted, but destroyed in a way that medicine could not fix. They said he collected things from women, intimate things, personal things, for rituals that fed his wealth and protected his name. Grace had heard none of these stories, and even if she had, she might not have believed them. She was too deep inside his world, too blinded by the comfort it offered.
After Grace left, Daniel fell apart quietly. He stopped eating well. He sat in a small room and stared at the wall for hours. His friends noticed, but did not know what to say. Heartbreak is a strange kind of pain. It does not bleed, but it hurts like a wound that never closes. He had given that woman everything he had, not just money or time, but trust, and she had handed it back to him like it was worthless. But something happened one night that changed the direction of Daniel's life. He was sitting at his printing press job, running pages at midnight, alone and tired, when his manager, a quiet old man named Mr. ADEMOYE, sat beside him and said, "Young man, I have watched you for 2 years. You work hard. You are honest. I am retiring next year, and I have no son to give this business to. If you want it, I will sell it to you at a price you can manage, and I will teach you everything." Daniel looked up from the machine, and for the first time in months, something in his chest felt alive again. He said yes before the old man finished speaking. Daniel threw himself into learning. Mr. ADEMOYE was not just a printing man. He understood business, contracts, branding, and client relationships. He taught Daniel how to speak to corporate clients, how to price jobs properly, how to manage staff and cash flow. Daniel worked 18 hours some days. He slept on a mattress in the back of the shop some nights. He saved every naira he could. Within 8 months, he had paid Mr. ADEMOYE half the agreed price and taken full control of operations. Then Daniel made a move that changed everything. He approached 3 companies in Lagos Island that were paying large printing companies too much money for basic work. He offered them better quality at a lower price and proved it with sample jobs he printed himself overnight. 2 of the 3 companies signed contracts with him within a week. The revenue from those 2 contracts alone allowed him to buy a second machine. Then he hired 2 staff, then 3. He moved the business to a bigger space in Surulere. Within 2 years, Daniel's printing and branding company had 12 staff members, a steady list of corporate clients, and a profit that would have been impossible to imagine when Grace looked at his worn sandals and walked away. It was one of his new staff members, a quiet and hard-working woman named Sola, who slowly walked into Daniel's life. She had applied for a job as his accounts officer, and he hired her based on her skill alone. Sola was not flashy. She was steady. She came early, stayed late, and always spoke truth to him, even when it was uncomfortable. Daniel noticed her not because of how she looked, but because of how she worked, and eventually, how she cared. They started spending time together after work, talking about the business, then about life, then about everything. Sola had her own quiet dreams. She respected how far Daniel had come. She never made him feel small for where he started. She valued what he had built more than what he had bought. When Daniel proposed to her, he did not do it in a grand restaurant or with a camera crew. He did it in their office after a long day of work, with a ring he had chosen carefully and words that came straight from his heart.
Sola said yes before he finished speaking. Grace did not notice herself at first. She started having strange dreams, dark, heavy dreams that left her exhausted even after a full night of sleep. Then she started forgetting things, small things at first, then bigger things. She forgot appointments, she forgot names. She would walk into a room and stand there, confused, unable to remember why she came. She went to a clinic and the doctors found nothing physically wrong, but she knew something was wrong. She felt it in her body like a slow fire eating from the inside. Then Chief Tinubu stopped calling. Not gradually, suddenly. One week he was sending money, and the next week his number was no longer reachable. She went to his office and was told by his gateman that the chief had traveled. She waited. He did not come back, not to her. She later heard from a mutual friend that Chief Tinubu had moved on to another young girl he met at a wedding, and the personal items he had quietly collected from Grace over the months, the scarf, the earrings, a bra she thought she had misplaced, were gone with him. Grace stood in her apartment, alone, surrounded by the things his money had bought, and felt more empty than she had ever felt in her life. Grace's life did not collapse in one dramatic moment. It crumbled slowly, the way a building crumbles when its foundation has been eaten, quietly from below, until one day the walls simply cannot hold. She lost her apartment when the rent dried up. She moved back to her mother's house in a state of shame so heavy she could barely speak. The girls who had admired her lifestyle said nothing now. The friends who had enjoyed her generosity during the chief's season disappeared like smoke. She sat with the consequences of her choices in silence, and the silence was loud. Daniel heard about Grace's situation through an old campus friend. He did not celebrate. He did not feel satisfaction. He simply felt a quiet, heavy sadness for a person who chose the wrong road and paid a price no one should have to pay. He was sitting in his office when he heard the news, his real office now, with his name on the door and staff outside handling clients. Sola was beside him reviewing invoices, their wedding photo on the desk between them. Daniel looked at that photo for a long moment, then he looked at Sola and said, "Never let anyone make you feel that love is not enough. Because love, the real kind, always finds a way to build something." Sola smiled and held his hand. Outside, Lagos moved and roared, but inside that office, everything was exactly where it was supposed to be.